More than half of that high school is minority students. Let's bring in Texas Congressman, member of the Homeland Security Committee, Morgan Luttrell. Congressman, great to see you. Moving ahead with the impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, why do that with so much hemming and hawing from your Republican colleagues over in the Senate about even taking that up?
Well, I can tell you why I'm taking it up is it's the number one issue in my district. And I can appreciate the differences between the two bodies in the Senate and the House, but for myself, I spent time at the border. I listen to the parents that lose their children to fentanyl overdoses. America is one of the top countries in sexual trafficking. We need to hold, the person that needs to be held accountable is the person that's responsible for securing the United States border, and that's Secretary Mayorkas. And that's why the Republicans in the House are doing what they're doing.
So, Morgan, I don't know if you heard our intro to your segment, but we played a clip from Peter Doocy asking Karine Jean-Pierre about the problem at the border, taking money out of children's hands, families' hands with what's happening here in New York City. And her response to Peter Doocy was that the president is dealing with multiple issues at once. This is just a one-issue issue where you close the border and you keep kids in school. You don't affect their educations by putting migrants in their schools. On top of that, Karine Jean-Pierre said, listen, this is the Republicans' problem. They refuse to act. How do you respond to this administration trying to blame Republicans and saying it's not their problem that kids aren't going to school?
That's because they don't want to face up to the problems that they've created. Keeping our kids in school, keeping the towns around the border and in our border states open, not being overwhelmed by illegal immigrants that are coming across and scuttling the infrastructure. That's our job here in Washington, D.C. and the government. And the Biden administration has just turned a cold shoulder to it, which is, we're on air, so I won't use the word I want to use.
I think we know what you're saying, Morgan.
Congressman, the House controls the power of the purse. And this is a exploding financial problem for the United States in terms of, Sean mentioned the economic hardship caused by the opioid crisis, and we don't even have the current numbers. The estimate from the Republicans is it's almost $500 billion every year, the burden of illegal migrants. But it's actually worse than that, because California just expanded its own state Medicaid for eligibility for any illegal migrant who might qualify for it. And there are 5 states and D.C. who provide state-funded coverage or subsidies to immigrant adults, regardless of whether they're here illegally or not. And these states are going to come calling to Congress, hat in hand, begging for money. And it's time you put your foot down and not only say no, but start siphoning the money away from these sanctuary states.
It's hard to believe. I mean, the American people are speaking about this. New York, Chicago, Denver, they're saying, hey, we're overwhelmed. We are overrun. And the illegal immigrants are bogging down our towns. I don't know why the administration, but billions of dollars, yes, you're correct, billions of dollars, almost trillions of dollars on illegal immigrants. And if Biden's reelected for a second term, that number will just progressively get worse and worse and worse. We're $32 trillion in debt. You would think the leader of the free world would realize that and say, hey, look, we can actually stop this problem if we just secure our border.
And we can stop it if we have Republicans that can stick together. I know you only have a 1-seat majority right now. It's going to be really challenging to make that happen. But if you do, you're going to make some progress on this funding. But I want to move from our problems at home to our problems overseas. American deterrence, it seems to be non-existent, and Houthi rebels continue to launch attacks in the Red Sea. But is it a surprise, Morgan, to anyone when the commander-in-chief doesn't even know where our defense secretary is and the White House doesn't have answers on how there was this breakdown in communication?
But yes, of course, we were all curious to know. He's the Secretary of Defense. He's a key member of this administration, so we were all very curious as to what put him in the hospital.
Did the Pentagon just decline to give the information? Did Austin not say anything?
The call between the president and the secretary was very brief, and it was really focused on making sure that the president passed on his best wishes for a speedy recovery for the secretary.
So was the Pentagon then giving incomplete information? You said the whole administration was curious.
I don't know how differently to answer this question as I did yesterday.
Morgan, John Kirby, he was curious. and they pass on their best wishes to the Secretary of Defense. What kind of response is that?
Not a good one, especially in front of the American public. First, let me say, as a military man, I hope the Secretary is doing well. I'm personally letting this unpack itself. I want to see as we peel this onion back, where was the breakdown of communications from the Secretary himself down and inside the organization and over to the White House. And as this starts to play itself out, I'll be interested to see the details. This breakdown of communication from such a senior leader down and inside of organizations, that is extremely strange. It's frustrating nonetheless, given that the position of Secretary Austin, but that's going to be the way that I answered that question.
Congressman, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here always, Congressman Morgan Luttrell.
Thank you.